Top Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, May 27th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. Today on the show, big night of offense. If we were redrafting today, how high would these stud outfielders go? What are we doing with Sandy? My gosh, she got rocked again. Another prospect promotion and much more. Let's start with the players of the night.
Way to go, kid! Snatch it back! Yeah, we see ya! You're the man! Woo!
Great call once again. I mean, that Padres booth, they are just filled with energy. I love listening to those guys. So shout out to them again. That's from the Padres TV booth. And we will start things off here with Cade Cavalli, who had another strong start. 6 innings of 1-run balls, 7 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 87 pitches, 7 on the curve, 5 on the fastball. I did get a note here from Chris that Cade Cavalli is now just the 4th pitcher in the majors this season with consecutive double-digit strikeout starts and the 10th pitcher with 3 straight quality starts of at least 7 strikeouts. So he's put up some good starts at times. He's also had some bad starts at times. The curveball was awesome in this one. He threw it a bunch. He used it 46% of the time. Clearly his best pitch. And again, had 7 of his 13 whiffs on that one. The curve was also a little bit different. The velocity was up a little bit. It had 2 less inches of horizontal break, 3 less inches of drop, but it didn't matter because that was very good for him. His fastball, which has not been a great pitch for him this season, also had 5 whiffs in this outing. So overall, he was very good. He threw strikes, 70% of his pitches, 4 strikes. He does have the ERA down to 3.62. He gets strikeouts. He's looked much better as of late. The walks have been down as of late as well. I still think he's pretty erratic, but he's pitching well, Scott. What do you think about Cade Cavalli here?
Yeah, I think all of that is basically how I feel about him. He was one of my sleeper pitchers each of the last 2 weeks, and that was largely matchup driven. So 2 turns ago, it was the Mets he was facing, and he had dominated them previously with 10 strikeouts. He got 9 strikeouts in his follow-up start against the Mets, and then the Guardians this time out. So playing the matchups has proven to be successful with Cade Cavalli up to this point. Neither version of his fastball is good, it seems like. And it's hard to make your way in the majors without a good fastball. You need a secondary offering that's really, really stupendous. And maybe his curveball is. It entered the start with a 44% whiff rate, 214 batting average against actually a 199 expected batting average. And like you said, he threw it a ton in this start, 46%. Normally it's more like 29%. Velocity was up on it. I'm not sure whether that's something we would want to continue or not. It seems like it played well enough with the reduced velocity and just getting more drop. I don't know. I don't know if the velocity is something that needs to continue for that curveball to be successful, but I like seeing the increased usage from Cavalli. I remain pretty skeptical that he's going to be like a mainstay in fantasy rotation, somebody you're going to want to play every week. But I think if you picked him up to stream him this week, you should probably just hold on to him with the kind of run he's on now. Still gets a fair amount of hard contact. Still, you'd expect the swinging strike rate to be higher for as good as his K per 9 is, but you could nitpick him to death, and in the end, it's like, well, what else are you going to do with that roster spot? He's a pitcher who's performing well and is now up to 10.3 K per 9. So I don't know. We don't need to make it any more complicated than that when it just comes to, do you roster him or not?
So over his last 4 starts, Cade Cavalli, 2.88 ERA, 1 whip on the nose, 28 strikeouts, just 4 walks over 25 innings pitched. And he has 2 walks or fewer in 7 of his last 8 starts. So again, the control has been better here for Cavalli. Again, if you picked him up as a streamer this week, looks like he's in line for 2 starts next week. So spoiler alert for later in the week.
Keep streaming, baby.
Pretty sure he's going to be on Scott's sleeper pitchers for next week as well. He gets the Marlins and at the D-backs next week.
Unless he just gets picked up in too many leagues and doesn't qualify anymore.
55%. I don't see him climbing over 75%. weekend, but I could be wrong about that. Two names we spoke about yesterday pretty glowingly, Reed Detmers and Ben Brown. Would you take Cade Cavalli over either of those?
Well, maybe next week. But in terms of, do I dedicate a roster spot to this guy just in like with a rest of season frame of mind? I would probably put Cavalli third on that list, close with Detmers. They're all three close, but yeah, I think I'd put Cavalli third.
All right, let's go over to you, Scott, your player of the night.
Let's talk about Mookie Betts. Had a huge game here.
Mookie Pookie?
Mookie Pookie. So he went, I have to explain the Mookie Pookie thing now because it just sounds bizarre. So I had a professor in college in journalism school. He was a former reporter for NBC News. And whenever a student said anything that sounded kind of whiny, his response to that would be Mookie Pookie. Or sometimes he'd just shorten it to Pookie. Clearly did not have time for that kind of attitude. But anyway, yeah, Mookie Betts. He went 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, 5 RBI, and we had been waiting for him to do basically anything because obviously he had missed a lot of time with injuries. I just came out with an article here on Tuesday, 15 studs who you should keep the faith on. And somebody asked me, oh, why didn't you put Mookie Betts on this list? Well, he had played only 20 games to that point. I just feel like there's nothing you could make of a 20-game sample. But when we do dig into the data here on Mookie Betts, I don't see anything to be too concerned about. There was the exit velocity drop last year, particularly in the first half, which would be easy to tie back to that illness he was dealing with before the season where he lost a bunch of weight when the Dodgers were over in Tokyo, I believe it was. And just the season had to get rolling and he didn't have the time to fully recover from that illness to regain the weight. And so that really sapped him of his power in the early going, but he bounced back in the second half. And 90.8 mile per hour average exit velocity this year. That's right where he's been for most of his career. Strikeout rate still microscopic. Yeah, everything looks pretty normal. Even average bat speed, right where it's been the previous 2 years. So I feel like Mookie Betts is still the player we've known him to be in recent years. Obviously not as good in his prime, but still like must start high-end shortstop if we just give him time to let the numbers normalize and give him bigger than that 20-game sample. And hopefully this big performance was against the Rockies, right? Against the Rockies, but in LA. Hopefully that was the start of it. Hopefully it was the start of Mookie Betts living up to what we drafted him to be, despite the injury kind of delaying things at the start.
Yeah, diving in before the show, I noticed a lot of the same things. I mean, the expected stats look all right. He's hitting the ball decently hard. The average exit velocity is actually up from where it was last year. Plate discipline still looks good. He's only striking out 12% of the time. I think missing 5 weeks with an oblique injury, it just takes some time to get back into the swing of things. And I feel like that's what we're starting to see now from Mookie Betts. So hard to say like, oh, go out there and buy low now after he has a 2 home run game. But I do think much better days are coming here for Mookie Betts and hopefully some of the other Dodgers players as well. They went off here on Tuesday night. They put up 15 runs on 17 hits, including 5 homers. Andy Pages, another monster game. He went 4 for 5 with a sock and a shoe, his 12th home run, his 7th stolen base. More on him later. Will Smith, it's been a slow start for him as well. 2 for 4 with his 5th homer. But he's another one where you dive in and everything under the hood looks pretty good. The quality of contact, the average EV is down a little bit from where it was last year, but the barrel rate right in line with last year. Expected stats look pretty good. Feels like Will Smith has been pretty unlucky. So I would put him in this kind of, buy right now conversation. Keep the faith in Will Smith. We did get a request to talk about how bad Kyle Tucker has been, and I'm seeing now that he was one of the names in that article that you wrote here that came out on Tuesday. And it's just such a terrible feeling when if you have a player on your team, you see, wow, the team he's on put up 15 runs. Let me check the box score, and Kyle Tucker had to do something big tonight, right? No, 1 for 5 with a run scored, again, in a game where they scored 15 runs. And overall, he's hitting just 245. He's got 4 homers, 4 steals, 743 OPS. Scott, taking a closer look, what's going on here with Kyle Tucker, and why are you telling people to keep the faith in him?
Well, I think just the fact he's Kyle Tucker is reason enough to keep the faith. The track record is so robust that even if the data looked pretty alarming, I still think I would bet on him regressing to the mean over the course of the season. But the data doesn't look that bad. The main thing that's different for Kyle Tucker is his barrel rate has been halved. And barrels are the most valuable form of batted ball event. That's where most of the damage happens. So on average, the average of his batted ball events has come out to pretty much what it always has for Kyle Tucker. Only a slight decrease in average exit velocity, the hard hit rate actually a little higher than last year, etc. But that barrel rate has been halved, and so he's not getting the most valuable batted ball events, which to me says, okay, the skill set hasn't really diminished here. He's just not quite dead on accurate with his swing, and that's it. He's cold, basically. He's been cold for 2 months. I doubt he's going to be cold for 6 months. He remained cold again here with this 15-run outburst for the Dodgers. But in the long run, I think Kyle Tucker is going to be fine, provided he stays healthy. Remember, he was playing through injury in the second half last year.
Yeah. To your point about the barrels being down, his expected slugging percentage is down 100 points from where it was last year. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me, but he's still pulling fly balls in the air at a good rate. His bat speed is down a little bit, but it's not egregious or anything like that. He's chasing a little bit more, but the zone contact is fine. His strikeout rate is 19%. I mean, that's okay for him. The splits against lefties and righties have been okay. Another thing that stood out, he has hit terribly in Dodger Stadium so far this season, where he's batting just 198 with a 637 OPS on the road, 290 with an 856 OPS. I think that's one of those things like first year in a new location, expectations, joining, the back-to-back world champions, putting pressure on himself and things like that. Dodger Stadium is typically a really good ballpark to hit in, especially for power. So I don't really see that remaining, but it kind of just strikes me as something where it's all right, first year in a new location, still trying to figure things out there. So overall, I would agree with you. I think I don't see enough in the underlying data that like completely scares me off of Kyle Tucker there. Do want to quickly highlight the other team that went off here on Tuesday night. That was the Yankees. They also put up 15 runs on 24 hits, including 6 homers in that one. Ahmed Rosario, 4 for 6 with a double dong, 4 RBI. Don't really think there's much value in him in fantasy unless you play in the deepest of daily lineup leagues, sure. Cody Bellinger, 2 for 5 with his 8th home run, 3 RBI. He has 8 home runs in his past 8 games and has pretty much had a Bellinger-esque season so far. He's been really good. Jazz looking much better in the month of May, 2 for 5 with his 6th home run. And so far in the month, 302 batting average, 3 homers, 4 steals, 866 OPS. And he does have the overall batting average up to 246 as well, which is, I think, pretty close to what we were expecting from Jazz. Anthony Volpe, Scott, is one I wanted to ask you about. He went 3 for 6 with his first homer, 3 runs, 2 RBI. He's looked pretty good since coming back. To me, the swing looks a little bit different. It's more compact so far this season. He has started the last 2 games, but he sat out the previous 2 before that. They have a bit of a logjam here between Volpe and Caballero and McMahon, between shortstop and third base. I just feel like some of those guys are going to get like a couple of days off every week, which probably limits, the viability of Anthony Volpe, but he's looked pretty good so far. He's walking a bunch. He has 2 steals. Is there any fantasy viability here for Anthony Volpe, who's 25% rostered?
I think he has a long way to go to become viable in fantasy, especially since the playing time was limited. Even if it wasn't, even if he was locked into a starting job, I mean, he had been pretty fringy, even from a roto context prior to this year. And worse with each passing year. And so I have a hard time getting excited about him now. Again, it's kind of a moot point how we think he's going to do if he's only going to play even half the time, and I suspect it might be less than that. So it's worth monitoring if some of these gains he's made, like for instance, pull air rate really stands out. He's pulling into the air like 30% of the time, just about double what we saw from him last year. And that is one way to generate power with a swing that is not, without having a lot of raw power. You can get functional power by pulling in the air a lot. And so if that continues for Volpe, maybe there is another level of play to unlock here. But the biggest hurdle to clear even before that is, can he get into the lineup with any regularity?
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally agree with that as well. Before we hit our first break, if you listen on the audio side of things, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. It helps out a lot. Let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, you need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
Welcome back, Fantasy Baseball. Today, let's hit the news and notes. And we had another prospect promotion. Actually saw this news item right after we finished our shows last night. So just kind of unfortunate timing. But the A's called up prospect Gage Jump, and he started here Tuesday against the Mariners. He did struggle here in his first outing, 5 innings, 9 hits, 4 runs, 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. He did have 13 whiffs on 88 pitches. It is a funky delivery from the left-hand side, but, did a good job generating whiffs. That has never been an issue. Had a lot of strikeouts in the minors this season as well, but also came with a lot of walks. The ERA and whip were not very good. So, Scott, Gage Jump, 23% rostered. Do you have any interest in him in fantasy?
Yeah, I'm pretty interested. First of all, I will point out that his name sounds like the basic mechanic in a Super Mario game. Gage Jump. What are you looking to do? Oh, Gage Jump. That's how you succeed in Super Mario Brothers. So that's fun. But the stuff that he's pretty fun too. Like if you watch Gage Jump pitch, it's kind of a fitting name too, because he kind of has this bounding delivery, where it's just it's hard to explain. You just have to see it. It kind of has a little spring in his delivery that I think adds a little something to it. But the fastball has a lot of zip on it. It's a pitch that plays well in its own right. He has a good slider. Actually, it looked like 2 versions of a slider in his debut here. They split it into a slider and a sweeper. And all 3 of those pitches, the fastball, the sliders, and the sweeper, got double-digit swinging not double-digit swinging strikes. Got multiple swinging strikes. He ended up with 13 in all on 88 pitches. That was after having a 13% rate at AAA, which is very good. And throws a lot of strikes. I think he's pretty exciting. And I was encouraged enough by this start that I'd be willing to carve out a spot on my rosters for Gage Jump. Probably would prioritize Cavalli and Reed Detmers over him. But once they're gone, then I think Jump would be an attractive pickup.
All right, let's continue on here. Shohei Ohtani was lifted for a pinch hitter in the 5th inning with the Dodgers up 10-1 at the time. He was hit by a pitch on the right hand in his previous at-bat, so hopefully there's nothing wrong. He is supposed to start on the mound here on Wednesday. So that is his pitching hand. Feels like they chose to play it safe in the blowout, but I'm sure we will learn more. And if he's on the mound on Wednesday, then I'm pretty sure Shohei Ohtani is just fine. Tarek Skubal threw 39 pitches over 2 2/3 innings in a simulated game on Tuesday. He is working his way back, assuming no setbacks. I would expect him to be back at some point in June. Garrett Crochet is scheduled to throw a second live BP on Sunday. He threw a 1-inning live batting practice here on Tuesday. Griffin Jax left after just 2 innings of work due to a back injury. He got hit by a 107-mile-per-hour comebacker in the second inning that he took right off the middle of his back. So he did finish out that inning, but then he went down into the clubhouse and did not return to the game after that. Brandon Marsh left early with an apparent hand injury. He seemed to hurt it after he was picked off at first base in the first inning of that game. Nolan Arenado left early with right groin tightness, and he was hitting pretty well, so could be a loss there at third base. We'll see how that goes. Roman Anthony took 12 to 15 dry swings without any discomfort on Tuesday. He's working his way back from a wrist and now a sprained ligament in one of the fingers on his hand. Logan Webb will return Friday against the Rockies in Colorado, unfortunately. So if you're playing a daily lineup league, Scott, are you throwing Logan Webb out there in Coors Field first start back?
I'm probably not. Depends a little on the specific circumstances of my team, how much I just need to chase counting stats, but probably not. I would be worried about the ratios getting skewed there. He was already having some ratio problems, Logan Webb.
Hunter Green threw a successful bullpen session Tuesday. It's the first time he's thrown from the mound since he underwent surgery back in March to remove bone chips in his right elbow. So it's still going to be a pretty long ramp up here. He's going to have to make a bunch of rehab starts. So I'm thinking maybe if all goes well, it's like July or like right after the All-Star break, something like that. But Scott, in leagues where Hunter Green was dropped, would you be looking to re-add him now that he's starting to get on the mound?
I would. I did, in fact, in my shallowest league, a 10-teamer, 25-man roster. So, decent, but still shallow on the shallow end, not as shallow as maybe most 10-team leagues, but still on the shallow end. And I was picking up Hunter Green to stash in an IL spot, which I had available. It's worth noting. But yeah, now would seem like a good time to do that if you're dissatisfied with what you already have in an IL spot.
Spencer Schwellenbach has begun a throwing program. He threw a flat ground. He's also working his way back from surgery to remove bone spurs in his right elbow. Feels like maybe he's a little bit behind Hunter Green, even though he had the surgery before him. Who would you rather stash right now between Hunter Green and Spencer Schwellenbach?
Green's definitely ahead. I think maybe as much as a month ahead. And I would have ranked him higher if they were both healthy too. So definitely Green.
Brandon Woodruff is scheduled for a 60-pitch live BP next week. Logan Henderson was placed in the IL due to a lower back strain. Coleman Crow will start Friday against the Astros. Drake Baldwin, who's on the IL with a grade 1 oblique strain, does not yet have a timeline for his return. Vlad Jr. has missed 2 straight with a right elbow contusion. He was hit by a pitch on Sunday. Max Muncy of the Dodgers has missed 4 straight after being hit by a pitch on his wrist on Friday. He did enter that game as a defensive replacement, so hopefully in the lineup here on Wednesday. And Noah Schultz was placed in the IL with right knee patellar tendonitis. What round would these stud outfielders be drafted in if we were redrafting today?
Ooh, I just did this exercise 2 weeks ago at the quarter way point of the season. We're about a third of the way through the season now, but at the quarter way point, I redrafted the first 2 rounds myself. So I should be semi-prepared for this.
Well, let's see if anything has changed in 2 weeks, guy.
Maybe.
Yordan Alvarez is heating back up. He went 2 for 5 with a double dong, 4 RBI, has 3 homers in his past 2 games. He's been awesome this year. He's hitting over 300. His OBP is over 400. He's got 18 homers, 34 runs, 37 RBI. He entered Tuesday as the 13th best hitter in Roto, the 3rd best hitter in head-to-head points league. So if we were redrafting today, how high would Yordan Alvarez go?
I think he'd have to be a first rounder. I'm surprised the Roto formula has 12 hitters ahead of him.
I was surprised.
Yeah. I obviously he doesn't provide steals, and it's kind of it's more difficult to quantify player value in Roto than it is in points. Points is very straightforward. Roto, it's sort of like different players mean different things to different builds. And so what do you prioritize early in drafts? But I would say definitely first round for Yordan Alvarez. I had him 6th actually when I did this 2 weeks ago.
All right. Yeah, I was thinking like the 1-2 turn, but yeah, I think he's right back in that conversation. It always comes down to health. We know how good of a hitter Yordan Alvarez is, and he's reminding us of that. He needs one more game in the outfield. He played a bunch early on, but obviously with the injury now to Carlos Correa, like everything kind of fits in with Yordan Alvarez just being the team DH. He has 9. On CBS, he already is outfield eligible, but for those who play in NFBC leagues, or leagues where you need 10 games, he has 9. So we need one more game.
That would change things if he wasn't, if you couldn't count on using him in the outfield. That would put him a little lower. Probably more like the 1-2 turn, like you were saying.
James Wood, he will not stop. 3 for 4 with a sock in the shoe, his 15th homer, his 9th stolen base. He has a .413 on base percentage, 15 homers, 49 runs, 37 RBI, 9 steals. He is on pace for 43 homers, 133 runs scored, 107 RBI, 26 steals. He entered this game averaging 4 fantasy points per game. Does strike out a lot, but does cancel some of those out with all the walks that he's had so far this season. I know we spoke about him recently, Scott, and you said, third rounder still.
Oh, I mean, yes. That's something that's changed in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he's clearly a second round pick if we're redrafting today.
Yeah. And I think we should clarify for the audience. Why is he a second round pick when he ranks? What did you say? I think isn't he like the number 1 outfielder in points leagues?
He might be the number 1, but yeah, it was averaging 4 fantasy points per game. I could look up where he ranks overall in Roto.
So we're doing this with the assumption that we don't get the stats they've already put up, right? It's just from today forward, what do we expect them to be?
Second best outfielder in Roto so far this season.
But I'm doing the exercise, right? From today forward, not
Yep.
All the past counts for is signaling to us what the future could be. And so with that in mind, I agree. I would wait until round 2 to draft James Wood because a lot of the, he is doing a better job of elevating the ball. The ground ball rate has gone down quite a bit. I think that must be in May in large part. He's still very opposite field minded. So he is still leaving something on the table power wise. But as hard as he hits the ball, he can put it over the fence opposite field pretty regularly and has. So yeah, it does seem like he's doing a better job of elevating the ball. That is a step in the right direction. The strikeout rate is still scary and I think presents some downside risk that hasn't manifested this year. I think he will be worse moving forward than he's been so far, which is why I'm going to say round 2, but I'm still saying round 2. I don't think it's like a warning, this guy, the bottom's about to fall out situation.
Entering Tuesday, he was 100th percentile in expected WOBA, average exit velocity, barrel rate, and hard hit rate. He has taken his quality of contact somehow to the next level this year. It's crazy. We do kind of have to guard against, we saw him be amazing in the first half last year, fell off in the second half. But if he maintains this over the course of a full season, we're probably talking about him more like a first round pick, but we need to see a little bit of a larger sample size here from James Wood, but still, he's moved up into the second round. What about O'Neal Cruz? 3 for 3 with a walk and his 17th stolen base. The power is down so far in May, but he is still running a lot and he is still hitting really well against lefties this year. 329, 908 OPS against lefties. He's actually kind of struggled against righties, which has always been the opposite in his career. Maybe almost focusing a little bit too much on performing well against lefties, but overall, he's been really, really good. If we were redrafting today, Scott, what round do you think O'Neal Cruz would be in?
Riskier than Wood, and so I think if he is drafted in round 2, first of all, that would only be in Roto leagues, and it would be a borderline there, round 2, because there's a little more downside risk. He provides more speed than Wood does. Which is why 2 weeks ago I chose to rank Cruz ahead of Wood, but that was a mistake. Cruz, I think, is borderline second round. I can't firmly put him in round 2 because there are probably 18 players that I could justify putting in round 2, having just done this a couple weeks ago, and I'm saying Cruz would be among them on the fringe.
Yeah, so I would agree. I think like 2-3 turn. The latest would be the third round, but somewhere in that round 2, round 3 range for O'Neal Cruz. Some of the things that I was most worried about coming into the season. Again, big thing being performance against lefties and potentially losing playing time, but that clearly has not been the case so far this year. He still could regress against lefties, but obviously he's taken huge strides. So I got to give credit where it's due. 3.4 fantasy points per game. Plate discipline, not nearly, doesn't walk as much as someone like James Wood. If it was a points league, how much do you think O'Neal Cruz would drop down?
I think he would be more like a late third rounder rather than a late second rounder.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Let's talk about Andy Pages, who again had a massive game, 4 for 5 with a sock and a shoe, his 12th home run, his 7th stolen base. He's got 49 RBI on this season. He's hitting 299, 882 OPS. He's hitting the ball harder this year. The average EV is up. The hard hit rate is up. I don't think, clearly he's not in like the first or second round, but he's someone who has jumped up quite a bit. So what round do you think Andy Pages would go in if we redrafted today?
Yeah, this is the hardest one because I don't have quite haven't gone deep enough to consider what other possibilities might push him further down,
Right.
And so I'm just kind of having to estimate a little more, I guess. I am skeptical. I will point that out. I'm skeptical that Andy Pages is going to sustain quite this, which every time he has a performance like he had here on Tuesday with 4 hits and a home run and a steal, it makes it harder to say. But the plate discipline is still pretty awful. The exit velocities are still pretty mid. And the pull air rate's pretty average too. It's kind of, you look at his baseball savant page, all the sliders are kind of right in the middle there. And then when a guy doesn't walk much, that makes me naturally skeptical of volatility. I see a lot of volatility in that skill set. So I'm going to put Pages probably in like round 5 or 6 in a 12-team league.
5th round was the first thing that came to mind for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm probably slightly lower than that. I've struggled with what to do with him in the outfield rankings too, because there is a range of outfielders where I don't really trust any of them. And so maybe Pages just belongs at the top because he's the one who's actually performing. My most recent update, I moved him up to 17. So I think that's what I ultimately decided. He's right behind like Trout, Arozarena, Byron Buxton, Jordan Walker, Cody Bellinger, others who are also performing. But then, it's not long before you get into like the Seiya Suzuki, Riley Green, George Springer, Jackson Merrill, Brent Rooker types who are all been pretty underwhelming, but I had a lot more confidence in them than Pages coming in, and they have better, more favorable track records that you don't want to like totally give up on them. But yeah, I think Pages has earned the right to go ahead of them at this point.
And the last name on this list is one we have talked about a lot. It's Michael Harris, man. He just keeps on hitting 4 for 4 with his 12th homer. He's got the batting average up over 300. He has 3 steals. We'd like to see him run a little bit more, but I guess it's hard to run when everything's going over the fence for Michael Harris. 865 OPS so far this year. He entered this game as the 12th best outfielder in Roto. Only 2.7 fantasy points per game, which we've talked about as well. So this is someone that would see a pretty big disparity in his, where he's drafted in a categories league versus a head-to-head points league. But where would you put Michael Harris if we're redrafting today?
Yeah, he's a really difficult case. Obviously, there's the disparity between the two formats, which has always existed with him. But even looking at this from a 5x5 context, the batting average is doing a lot of the work there. The home run pace is good. The home run pace is as good as it's ever been, but the other counting stats are pretty underwhelming, actually. And so how much do you trust him to sustain a batting average in that 290 to 300 range? It's something he's done before. He did it as a rookie, and I believe in his sophomore season as well, before falling off in batting average the last couple of years. That's just a hard mark for anybody to sustain. Mathematically, you rarely see somebody with an expected batting average that high because it's just not something the game allows for mathematically. But he's doing it now. He's done it before. The underlying data suggests he should be doing it. But I'm still going to take the under on Michael Harris actually doing it and think that batting average ends up closer to 280 in the long run, which would push him down, I think, below, or at least in the same range as Pages. I'll put him like in round 6.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was thinking a similar range as Pages. So round 5, round 6. If it's a points league, it's probably more like a 7th or 8th rounder, I would think there, for maybe even lower for Michael Harris. Because again, as good as he's been, 2.7 fantasy points per game, that's like, kind of replacement level, I think, in a head-to-head points league. So 5 outfielders who have moved up so far this season. Let's take a quick break, our final one, and when we return, we'll talk some waiver wire options from Tuesday. We'll do that right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's take a look at some waiver wire hitters. Jake Bauers, he continues to rake. He went 2 for 4 with his 8th home run, and the biggest drawback is he doesn't play all the time against lefties. He has played a little bit more recently. He has started against every right-handed pitcher except one this season. He has started against 6 of 16 lefties, including 2 of their last 3. He's actually performed well against lefties overall this season, but man, he's hitting 290. He's got 8 homers, 4 steals, 858 OPS, 64% rostered, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
How much higher should that number be for Jake Bauers?
I don't know that it should be any higher. I had him as a sleeper hitter this week, and he just had a good game. Maybe he'll end up coming through still, but the return of Andrew Vaughn, who's also performing well, has really hindered Bauers' production for fantasy. He has been playing some outfield, so that helps, but I don't know that they love him out there. Yelich obviously is occupying DH, so there's a real playing time issue here for Bauers that I think, knowing the breakdown of league formats on CBS, I think 64% is about right. That puts him in all the 5 outfielder leagues plus a few of the 3 outfielder leagues. That seems right.
And I have a good feeling he'll be on your sleeper hitters list for next week as well, Scott, because the Brewers have 7 games next week. 3 are in Colorado. So looking like
it'll depend how many lefties are on the schedule.
Now, I mean, this is a very early look.
Yeah, it changes a lot.
It's as of now, 1 lefty and 1 to be determined in Coors Field as well.
Okay.
So
That sounds promising.
Yep. Ezekiel Duran continues to hit as well. 2 for 4 with a double, 2 RBI. He's had a really good May, hitting 279, 3 homers, 7 doubles, 18 RBI, 1 steal, 814 OPS. He has every position eligibility except for catcher. He's 61% rostered. So similar range as Jake Bauers, Scott. Would you just, I guess, straight up rather have Duran over Jake Bauers?
I don't think so. I think Bauers is better, but obviously Duran is playing more consistently, and you could start him anywhere but pitcher or catcher, which is handy. So that kind of evens things out a little bit, but all things being equal, I think Bauers is the better hitter. He's the one that I think has more upside. Duran is more like a handy piece that you can plug in all over the diamond.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. Next name up here, we have Spencer Horwitz of the Pirates. He's been hitting well, 2 for 3 with his 6th homer. He did get the start against a lefty here on Tuesday. He has started 7 straight games, has 3 homers in that span over his past 7. And overall, he's hitting 289 and 858 OPS. His numbers against lefties this season have actually been pretty bad, but he's hitting well now. I know back in the day, Scott, Spencer Horwitz was someone that you liked quite a bit.
I did, yeah.
29% rostered. Would you be looking to add Horwitz in, I don't know, leagues where there's a corner infield spot?
I'm flattered you remember, Frank. But no, I don't like him so much anymore. I thought I would. I hadn't really paid any attention to him this season until today. And like, wow, Spencer Horwitz is hot. 237 expected batting average, 366 expected slug, average exit velocity 86 miles per hour. I don't think this is going to work out. And then even though he's played some against left-handers recently, I don't think that's a long-term arrangement either, particularly once the numbers normalize. So don't see a lot of value in Spencer Horwitz. No.
I think it would have to be pretty niche. He has more walks than strikeouts this season. So if you play in a deeper head-to-head points league or a roto league that uses OBP instead of batting average, yeah, in a league like that, I could see Horwitz having more value. But just in a straight up, 5x5 context with batting average or a shallower head-to-head points league, I don't think I see enough impact there from Spencer Horwitz. And Jesus Sanchez had a revenge game against the Marlins, 2 for 4 with a grand slam. It was his 6th homer. He has played against every right-handed pitcher so far this season, but only 2 of 13 lefties. So pretty strict platoon. The underlying stuff looks pretty good here, Scott. Sanchez hits the ball hard. Expected stats look good. He has the ground ball rate down this year. 23% rostered. I think, in 12-team roto leagues with 5 outfielder spots, like if you're desperate, sure, but he's just never going to play against lefties.
Man, you will never quit Jesus Sanchez, will you?
You used to love
never,
Horwitz.
Ever.
I loved Jesus Sanchez. I can't give up.
I mean, I've had my moments of infatuation with Jesus Sanchez myself. And look, he's been reasonably productive lately. I just don't think it gets any better than this. And I know it gets a lot worse. So I don't, apart from an emergency situation, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah. I think it's a higher floor. Like if we look up at the end of the season and Jesus Sanchez hit 270 with 20 homers and like 6 to 8 steals, that's fine, but it's not really a difference maker. And mostly because he just doesn't play every day. Couple deeper names here. Esmerlin Valdez of the Pirates. He's showing some pop early on here. He hit his 2nd home run. He has started 4 of 5 games since getting called up. He's 10% rostered. And Vaughn Grissom of the Angels had a big game, 3 for 5 with a grand slam, 6 RBI. He got the start here with Nolan Shanuel banged up. Very deep names here, Scott, but any interest in Esmerlin Valdez or Vaughn Grissom?
Valdez is fairly interesting as a prospect. I'm not sure he's shown anything that gets me particularly excited during the stint in the majors, which may not be a long-term one anyway. So, home run was impressive, 105.5 mile per hour. Exit velocity and 415 feet is how far it went. So it was a good poke there for Esmerlin Valdez, but I'm not rushing to pick him up in any leagues. I wanted to take a second look at Grissom here because this was an impressive game, and I don't think it was the first that we've seen from him this year. Hitting the ball considerably harder on average. Obviously, a player with some prospect pedigree himself. Not striking out much at all. This is a small sample, but not a microscopic, totally meaningless sample. About 113 plate appearances. About. I gave an exact number and I said about before it. That was stupid. And it's probably more now because this doesn't include Tuesdays. Let's say about 120 plate appearances. That is a more appropriate way to talk. Yeah, everything under the hood looks better for Grissom. The numbers are still meh even with this big game. So I'm not saying Grissom is somebody that's of much fantasy interest right now either. I guess I'm just saying if he does get more opportunity, I would be interested in seeing how it goes because there are signs here that maybe he's better than we've seen in the past.
We've got a few waiver wire pitchers to ask about. Shane Baz, he really likes facing his former team, so kind of just wish he would face the Rays every time out. But 7 innings of 1-run ball, 9 strikeouts here, 10 whiffs on 99 pitches. I think I said this last time out. I still just don't see enough under the hood here to get me excited about Shane Baz. He's 49% rostered. Looks like he lines up for 2 next week at the Red Sox and at the Blue Jays. Sean Burke had a great outing here against the Twins. 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts to 2 walks, had 10 whiffs on 100 pitches. He struggled mightily in his previous 3 starts before this. He looked better early on in the season. 34% rostered. You have any interest, Scott, in Shane Baz or Sean Burke?
Not a lot. I did at one point have some interest in Burke, but his previous 3 starts pretty much ruined that. And I was hoping to see evidence of a process change, a change to his process that would explain why this start against the Twins was so much better. I didn't really see it. I look at the overall profile, not enough strikeouts or missed bats in general. Too many but surprisingly, Sean Burke has not given up many home runs this year, even during that 3-start rough stretch. There just weren't many home runs for a guy who allows more contact in the air, and the exit velocities are not exactly low. So I think there might be some home run correction coming in a bad way for Burke that makes this even worse than it's been lately. And so I feel pretty confident ignoring the start. And Baz, same thing. I just don't see enough here. He did throw more curveballs, but it just wasn't beyond the actual surface level stats there. 7 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. There wasn't anything else there to catch my interest, to make me think like, oh, he unveiled some new skill we didn't know he had. I think you can safely ignore this Baz start as well.
Yeah, despite the good line here, he still allowed 10 hard hits and had a 96.5 average exit velocity against. So seems like a pretty fortunate outing here for Shane Baz. Aaron Nola had a bounce back start. I think we need to see a lot more. Obviously, he's been so bad this season, but 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts to 0 walks. Really leaned on that curveball. He threw it 49% of the time, and the curveball has just always been the best pitch for him. But previous 3 starts before this, 8.78 ERA, 1.88 WHIP. So I think we need to see more. He also does line up for 2 starts next week against the Padres and the White Sox. Ooh. Can I interest you in Aaron Nola?
I could see him making the sleeper pitchers list with those matchups, putting him in the points league only range of the 2-star pitchers. Yeah, I overall, I don't think Aaron Nola deserves much interest in fantasy, except as a matchups play like that. Curious to see if he continues with this curveball heavy approach, because that might work. It's a really good pitch for him. He threw it 49% of the time instead of 32%. So a significant increase. And had just a 79 mile per hour average exit velocity against by doing that. So there may be some potential there if he sticks with it, but I would say the odds are long that he's going to continue throwing half curveballs. Half of his pitches is curveballs moving forward.
2 much deeper names here. Spencer Miles pitched well again in bulk relief against the Marlins. 4 1/3, 1 run, 3 strikeouts here. He doesn't get a ton of whiffs, but he entered this start with an 84.3 average exit velocity, 3.15 expected ERA. He's 18% rostered, and he's a SPARP on CBS. And Eric Lauer was solid in his Dodgers debut. He did get the luxury of the Rockies on the road. 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts for him. And although he's been awful this year, he did have, he was legitimately good with the Blue Jays last year. 3.18 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. And I don't know, maybe the Dodgers will work some magic here, but 2 very deep league names, Scott. Any interest in Spencer Miles or Eric Lauer?
I would say they're both kind of interesting. I'm not moved to pick them up anywhere where they probably aren't already rostered because those leagues are so deep. But Spencer Miles is it's a very millennial sounding name, by the way, Spencer Miles. But he's a good ground ball pitcher, allows a lot of weak contact. Not a great bat misser. I know his previous 2 outings got a decent number of strikeouts, but I didn't expect that to continue, and it didn't continue in this latest one. So we need to see if he can work deeper into games, pick up some more innings before Spencer Miles is of any use to us. And Lauer, if the Dodgers pick him up, he's probably going to be of some use. They don't waste their time on players that are just awful usually. And obviously there's a great supporting cast there for Lauer. So I could imagine if he's taking a regular turn for them, which remains to be seen, part of it's just inserting an extra starter to give Ohtani enough off days. So I don't know how reliably we can count on Lauer starting for the Dodgers. But if it does become reliable, I could see him being streamable.
Spencer Miles kind of sounds like the star of an action movie, right?
I don't know. It sounds a little wimpy to me.
Spencer Miles. I don't know, man. It sounds, like a TV show, some kind of action show. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, what is that game? I think it's Uncharted. Nathan Drake. Kind of feels like a similar.
No, Nathan Drake does. That's a strong name.
Spencer Miles. Sounds
I don't know.
cool to me. Hey, agree to disagree. Sell high
Giving me the ick, Frank.
Sell high on Eduardo Rodriguez while you can. We brought this up last week. We said, maybe wait one more start. He gets the Giants next week, and he pitched well. 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. He had 13 whiffs on 94 pitches. For some reason, I watched this start, and I have him on a few teams, deeper teams, and it just seems like he is just, it's like a razor's edge whenever you're watching Eduardo Rodriguez pitch. He had a few bases loaded jams that he just kind of wiggled out of here. He has a 2.31 ERA that comes with a 4.15 xFIP, and his xERA was over 4 entering the start. And his matchups next week, the Dodgers and the Nationals, who are the best team in baseball against lefties. Next week is going to be a huge regression week coming for Eduardo Rodriguez. I would try my best to sell him for anything right now if I can.
I mean, you said it stronger than I could. I can't disagree with that. I've been skeptical this whole time. He had a great run of matchups there that kept putting him in my sleeper pitchers, but that will not be the case next week with those 2 matchups.
Eduardo Rodriguez's 8.8% K- walk rate, what ranks 5th lowest among 76 qualified starting pitchers. Does not sound like a pitcher who deserves a 2.31 ERA this year. So again, try your best. What do we do with these 2 pitchers? Sandy, oh my gosh, he imploded again. This time later in the game in the 6th inning. He did get through 5 innings with just 2 runs allowed, but man, the final line, 5 2/3, 10 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 homers allowed in this one. And over his last 9 starts, a 6.53 ERA, a 1.69 whip, 95% rostered. Should he be?
No, I don't think he should. I think he's pretty fringy. Somebody asked me if they could drop him in a 10-team league. Totally fine with that. I think he's better than he's been in his last 9 starts. But I don't know that there's a lot separating Sandy Alcantara from
Foster Griffin.
No. I was gonna say Seth Lugo. I'm not sure that's so different. On paper, he is better, but I think practically speaking for fantasy, the upside starts and the downside starts are going to look pretty similar. And I just don't know that that the downside starts. I'm just not sure the upside starts are high upside enough to make the downside starts worth it. So you're going to be continually frustrated with Sandy Alcantara. There are going to be times where you're thrilled to have him and happy you started him, and he goes 8 strong or whatever and gets a win with 6 strikeouts. Okay, great. But I don't think these starts are going to totally go away. And that's going to make him frustrating.
The next question is that he lines up for 2 starts next week against the Rays and at the Nationals. Is there any way that you use him in those 2 matchups?
I could see it in a points league if you're just trying to maximize volume, because at his best, he gives a ton of volume. Like I think points leagues are where I'd be most hesitant to give up Alcantara. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to rank him. If I rank him anywhere in the 2-star pitcher rankings, it'll be in that points league only tier, or it'll be in no thanks, where I don't recommend him anywhere. Points league only would be the only situation.
I'm kind of leaning that way right now. The latter, the no thanks part of it. It's just the Rays and the Nationals are both top 10 in WOBA against right-handed pitchers this season. Sandy obviously has been so bad. It could be one of those things where, like, sometimes when pitchers are this bad, they find it pretty easily, and they could just like kind of flip it on a dime, especially someone like Sandy who has an extensive track record. But as bad as he's pitched with those matchups, I don't think I would drop him, but I think I would have him on the bench for next week. Joey Cantillo did not last very long here against the Nationals. 2 innings, 4 runs allowed, 4 walks to 1 strikeout. I still think there's talent here, but man, the control is so bad at times that it just really limits any type of volume that we can get here. I think he's a hold in points leagues because he is a spark, but in category leagues, I don't think Joey Cantillo needs to be rostered.
Yeah, I think he's interesting and there's talent, and you could say that in the same way you could say it about Grant Holmes, but ultimately the limits are too clear there that apart from just streaming him on occasion when you have nobody better to use, I don't have a lot of interest in Joey Cantillo.
3 hitters who are trending up. Zach Neto, 3 for 4 with a walk, an RBI, 2 runs scored. Over his last 12 games, he's hitting .295 with 4 homers and 10 runs. So it's good to see. It's been a pretty disappointing season. Like, the power and speed is still okay, but the strikeouts and the batting average have been really bad there for Zach Neto. Jarren Duran, 2 for 5 with his 7th home run over his last 8 games. He's hitting .303 with 3 homers, 8 RBI, and a stolen base. His batting average still below 200, but the power and speed has been picking up. And George Springer went 3 for 4 with his 3rd stolen base. Last 9 games for him, .289, 3 homers, 2 steals. Feels like maybe he's starting to get past that fractured toe, which he was on the IL for like 2 weeks, and it's not really something that heals in 2 weeks. So clearly he's playing through the injury. 3 names that are trending up here, Scott: Zach Neto, Jarren Duran, Springer. Any thoughts on those 3?
I am interested in seeing, because I haven't checked in a week or so, what the average bat speed and the fast swing rate look like for George Springer. And they're right in between 2024, when he looked like he no longer mattered in fantasy, and 2025, when he was an absolute monster. Right in between. So this could go either way for George Springer still, I would say. But he is trending the right way statistically, the right direction. So obviously not a time to give up on Springer.
All right, stud pitchers being studs. Rank them. We have Cam Schlittler. He was great once again at the Royals. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts to 0 walks. He got taken out after 77 pitches, but the Yankees had a huge lead at that point. So I think they were just, playing it safe. Broadcast was talking about saving Cam Schlittler's bullets for later on in the season. Joe Ryan, he was great at the White Sox. 7 2/3, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts to 0 walks. Since he left that start on May 3rd with elbow soreness, he's made 4 starts, and he has a 1.75 ERA and a .74 whip. He has been awesome. Chase Burns fell 2 outs short of a quality start, 5 1/3, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts at the Mets. And Braxton Ashcraft, yet another quality start. This one against the Cubs, 6 1/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. Scott, how would you rank these 4? Cam Schlittler, Joe Ryan, Chase Burns, and Braxton Ashcraft.
You just did.
I had a feeling I did.
Yeah. So let's say it again. Schlittler. Who's the second one?
Joe Ryan.
Joe Ryan. And then I would put Chase Burns ahead of Ashcraft. As much as I like Ashcraft, I think those 2 are closer than maybe most people have them. Because I think Ashcraft's going to pitch more innings, and he has the ground ball ability going for him. But Burns is just so electric. So many missed bats. I got to give him the edge.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other thoughts on these four, or keep it moving?
I mean, Joe Ryan's velocity was up across the board.
Yeah,
Like 1.5, 2 miles per hour. So that was interesting. We've seen some fluctuating velocity from him in the past. But you're right, that elbow injury was such a fake out because it felt like, oh man, another one bites the dust. And then Joe Ryan, it's like it never happened. Why even report it? It just stressed us out for no good reason.
Kyle Harrison, not quite as studly as he has been lately, but he did manage to shut down the Cardinals. 6 shutout innings with 2 strikeouts to 0 walks, only 4 whiffs on 92 pitches. Overall, I think I'm encouraged by this guy. Like, clearly he didn't have his best stuff, and he still managed to have a very useful outing here. Any thoughts on Kyle Harrison?
Yeah, I wasn't sure why the fastball played down in this one. It was after 3 starts of it getting double-digit whiffs. That pitch itself, the fastball.
Yep.
It just gets 2 in this one. Still ended up being a good outing, so I guess you could be encouraged by that. But to say, oh, he didn't have his best stuff, you would think the characteristics of the fastball there would be some fluctuation, like the induced vertical break would change, or the velocity, or whatever, and those were all the same. So I don't know why it played down, and that has me a little concerned since Harrison's the strength of his whole profile is built on that fastball being a knockout pitch. But we'll just chalk it up as an aberration for now.
All right, a couple other pitching leftovers. Spencer Strider was meh at the Red Sox. 5+ innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts. He actually started this game allowing back-to-back homers, and then nothing after that. Well, I guess he did give up the 3rd run, but overall he was okay. 11 whiffs on 87 pitches. And then Emerson Hancock shut down the A's. 6 shutout innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, only 6 whiffs on 87 pitches. Similar to Harrison, like, not sure that he had his best stuff, but the A's lineup is kind of hit or miss, but still wound up having a very useful start here. So any thoughts on Strider and Emerson Hancock?
It wasn't the greatest start for Strider, but it was another start that raised an eyebrow for me because he got multiple whiffs on 4 different pitches. Threw his slider just 21% of the time. He didn't seem to have it. It was down 1.5 miles per hour. So that meant more curveballs, more changeups, which weren't really part of his arsenal prior to this year. He dabbled, but they weren't. It was pretty much just fastball, slider prior to this year, and we're seeing him flesh out his arsenal in a way that I think is very encouraging. I don't think we're going to see 2023 Strider ever again, but I'm not inclined to sit him after an underwhelming start like this one.
Some hitting leftovers. Connor Griffin was moved up to the leadoff spot against a left-handed pitcher. He went 1 for 4 with a walk and 2 runs scored. He's hit well in May. We just haven't really got a lot of power, only 1 home run in the month. And he's not really hitting the ball all that hard, and he's hitting a ton of ground balls. So he's super young. I think he's still trying to figure things out. And even with that, the batting average has climbed, and he's still running whenever he gets on base. So would like to see more power, but overall, I think pretty encouraged from what we've seen from Connor Griffin. Juan Soto, this guy is locked in. Last 11 games, he's hitting .366 with 7 homers and 4 steals. Ketel Marte remained red hot, hit his 9th home run. It was a bomb. 113.7 exit velocity, 452 feet. And over his last 10 games, Ketel Marte is hitting .524 with 4 homers and 16 RBI. Trey Turner, 2 for 5 with a sock and a shoe. His 6th home run, his 10th stolen base. And Casey Schmidt, another one, 2 for 5 with his 12th homer. He has 6 home runs in his past 10 games. Anything stand out to you on Griffin, Soto, Marte, Turner, or Casey Schmidt?
Never a doubt about Ketel Marte. It all looked good under the hood, and it has all come back very quickly. And that's what I'm hoping is true for those 15 players I wrote about today. Among them was Trey Turner, actually. And He had a good game here. Obviously, has been underwhelming so far, and I think it's easy for people to lose heart here with Turner because he's 33, and it would be understandable if he began to decline at this age. But I don't see any evidence of that. Sprint speed still 99th percentile, average bat speed right in line with career norms. And usually what's a clear indicator of a hitter aging out is he struggles with fastballs, just can't catch up to the heat anymore. Trey Turner entered this game with a 352 batting average against fastballs. So I think he's okay.
He's got to get better against everything else.
Yeah, I think he's okay. I think this is this game here Tuesday is the start of the turnaround.
The call to the bullpen for the Braves. Raisel Iglesias got the 9th with a 3-run lead. He allowed 2 runs on 4 hits, but he did pick up his 9th save. For the Brewers, Abner Uribe got the 8th inning with a 6-run lead, facing 9-1-2 in the Cardinals lineup. He allowed a walk and a hit, but he did get out of it. And then Trevor McGill pitched the 9th inning with a 6-run lead. He gave up a single, but that was it. He closed out the game. Do you have a lean, Scott? Like, who is the close? I don't think there is a closer, but I guess you had to.
It has far more consistently been Uribe than McGill.
Right.
But McGill's pitched great other than those back-to-back really rough outings he had, one of which was kind of it's not like he got hit hard, and I think he committed his own error, right? That caused all the damage to be done. Something like that. He made a bad field decision. I guess it wasn't an error because they were earned runs, but like he didn't take the easy out when he should have or something like that. So, and if you look at I think his FIP is like 175 or something. Like McGill's been pitching great. And Uribe, I think, has been a little shaky. So I do wonder if Pat Murphy is going to rethink how he deploys those two, if this was the start of it. I actually came close to dropping McGill in Scott White Dynasty League 24-teamer. Definitely going to hold on now. That was all you asked me about, right? The Brewers bullpen.
Yes. Did you see Abner Uribe's celebration on the mound?
I did.
Yeah. What is he thinking?
Like a triple.
It's like a D-Generation X type wrestling celebration.
Yeah. Yeah, the chop to the groin area. Very flagrant. I don't know what he was thinking.
I mean, to look right at the opposing dugout and do that, that is
not just that, but sometimes it was an instance of, like, you see this sometimes, a player just forgetting that tens of thousands of people are there watching him, like, I don't know.
I found it hilarious, but it was also a bad look. Like, I get why it's a bad look. And Pat Murphy, after the game, he was not happy about it. So we'll see if that, I don't know, factors into any decision-making there for the Brewers. For the Rangers, Jacob Latz got the final 4 outs. He allowed a solo homer, but picked up his 6th save. For the Twins, Yoendrys Gomez got the 11th inning with a 3-run lead. He allowed a hit, and the Manfred man came around to score, but he picked up his 3rd save. The Twins do not have a closer, and they never will ever again. For the D-backs, Paul Sewald got the 9th with a 3-run lead. He allowed a solo homer, but picked up his 13th save on his birthday. So happy birthday to Paul Sewald. Well, I guess it's not his birthday anymore, but it was when he got the save. To stream or not to stream on Wednesday, we have Noah Cameron against the Yankees, Dustin May at the Brewers, Jeffrey Springs against the Mariners, Steven Matz at the Orioles, Jameson Taillon at the Pirates, Bubba Chandler against the Cubs, Andrew Abbott at the Mets, Connor Prelip at the White Sox, Mike Burrows at the Rangers.
Trying to remember what we said yesterday. I think we said Andrew Abbott is one. Did some get removed here?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Jeffrey Springs against the Mariners was okay.
I think I said Abbott, Taillon, and Matz. I think.
Taillon. I don't know about Taillon. I'd be more likely to do Chandler than Taillon, I think, but it's obviously high risk.
Yeah. Yeah, Chandler with all the walks against the Cubs lineup that walks a decent amount. Yeah, I think Abbott is probably the top, and then Steven Matz is probably number 2. And man, if you need a third one, I guess Taillon. But There is risk involved for sure.
Jeffrey Springs. I kind of like Jeffrey Springs.
On Thursday, my goodness, I don't even know if I should read the names. Grayson Rodriguez at the Tigers, Jack Flaherty against the Angels, Eric Fetty against the Twins, Colin Ray at the Pirates, Patrick Corbin at the Orioles.
You should not have read the names. I hate you for reading the names.
You should not stream anybody on Thursday. If I had to choose one, I guess I would say Colin Ray, but gross.
Patrick Corbin had a good start last time out. I don't know. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't ever stream pitchers.
It's a 6-game slate on Thursday, and there's a few TBDs in there. It's not looking good.
Oh.
We are going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.